Okay, so on part 2, if you're just seeing this video, there's a part 1. You definitely need to watch that first. So picking up where I left off. So it is it is through this experience that I realized the great offense that was committed was mirrored from polar opposite positions. The curse the invading forces brought into the balance-focused lives of the Guardians was the deeply evil and truly original sin, us versus them, division. They may have brought it into our land, but we met them eventually halfway. Like we met them there at the us versus them, instead of holding that space of we are all one. Had we chosen in those times, and I'm going to circle back to this, but we have that choice. So when we're talking about ancestral healing, everyone in that genetic line has that same work to do. Whether you do it or not, that's, up to you. But anyone in that line, which is why a lot of times they talk about certain symptoms of ancestral trauma, inherited trauma, that they call it hereditary disease. Like something even as alcoholism, so I'm talking about an insight that I had into the inception of this karma, and or conception, because they did it together. But we have, as we had a choice then, we have that choice now. So had we chosen in those times to see our offenders as extensions of ourselves and chosen to look for the best action to take from the perspective of we're all in this together, rather than they will destroy all that we are and all that we hold dear if we do not protect what we are only if we do not protect what we are only in the ways in which we are different from them. So in that moment, when she had that splinter experience and separated and saw them versus us, it was born of a fear that everything that they believed in and held dear was going to be destroyed. So there she's choosing from fear. Fear is always going to take you in the opposite direction of God. Faith takes you in the direction of God. I'm saying God as kind of a broad term. Divine, source, energy, the creator, great spirit, all of those. And in order to step into an us and them perspective, it means that you have to then overlook all of your similarities and focus on your differences. Because if you focus on the similarities, they far outweigh the differences from human being to human being. So there's that aspect too. Faith says all matters and outcomes are in God's hands, and that the most sound guidance one can receive is from God, or the divine, through divine union and holy communion. So divine union is to use your free will to choose to join with the divine, to submit, surrender, to give yourself over into the service of divine. Holy Communion is to pray, meditate. It's when you communicate with the divine and you allow that communication to be reciprocal. By choosing into the us versus them perspective, we choose into splintering from God, who is love and loves all, much in the same way Lucifer is depicted as doing in biblical dogma. So that was the thing that started this whole journey. Lucifer is, and this is just representations of energy. That's the whole thing about the Bible. Any spiritual mythology, it's all just representative of energy, concepts, dynamics. It's all representative of energetic dynamics. So to say Lucifer, you know, it's just representative of this dynamic of the light and dark. So you have God, you have Lucifer. Lucifer is an archangel, and he is God's like second down, right hand man, like besties. And I remember when I was reading the Bible, I was learning the Bible, I was raised Christian, Rastafarian, but Christian nonetheless. And we were learning about this part of the story. And I was like, they don't ever explain why would, like, God is all powerful, right? God created the angels exactly as they are. God created humans exactly as they are. How's God's favorite angel gonna just up and turn on him? Like, doesn't that require a little bit more information? And so over the years, I've become more and more to believe this understanding of that dynamic, and it, like I said, just representative of the light dark polarity. That's what started the whole thing. When Lucifer chose to pass judgment on human beings, to condemn them as something bad and not good, even though they are creations, beloved creations of the Almighty. Like, that alone should have been enough for Lucifer to say they must be beautiful and amazing, as all of God's creations are, because God created them. But it was jealousy, and that's actually been coming up in my personal readings and a lot of collective readings too, jealousy. And that Lucifer was jealous of God's love for these imperfect humans. Like, I'm an angel. How is it that you're going to love these humans as much as me when they're not, like, they're awful? Kind of. And that's when Lucifer splintered from God. And when they talk about the Great War and blah, 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 it's, in my belief, all metaphorical, completely metaphorical. Like, didn't anybody think that that was kind of like a weird imagery of, like, angels battling demons? Like, what, with swords? Like, are you kidding me? Anyway, so by choosing into the us versus them perspective, we choose into splintering from God, who is love and loves all, much in the same way Lucifer is depicted as doing in biblical dogma, thereby fraying or corrupting our bond with God, and like diverting the flow of divine spirit within us. In order to be whole again as individuals and as that greater one life force, we have to be willing to identify with all things. So not just to love all things, because to love all things, you don't have to identify with something to love it. You can relate to it, you can be attached to it, you can appreciate it. But to identify with all things is to see literally everything as exactly the same as what you are, which is really, really hard to do when you're looking up close at details like this pen. How's this pen as much me as my hand, you know? When you look at it like that, it's really hard to see that. But when you meditate, when you pray, you go within. And the way I experience it is, this is a projection. So when I'm going in, I'm going back to actual reality. I'm going to the best point of view possible. And when I get there, or, you know, when I'm close enough to feel immersed in it, and that point of view shifts, I see that, like, just like if you have a projector, right? Projecting a movie onto like a screen. While those images might seem like many different things on the screen, it's all one thing. It is a light coming out of a projector. That's basically the best way I can explain it right now. So it was revealed to me at that point that the last piece of the puzzle would be focused on healing that division. We are all longing for divine union, inner peace, which is to say, total harmony within. And that's why so many spiritual practices talk about balance, because you don't want to experience any part of yourself as in conflict with any other part of yourself. Karma is kind of like a spiritual equivalent of an autoimmune disease. And an autoimmune disease is where the body is trying to protect itself and ends up destroying itself. Okay, so long as we hold and or cultivate the us versus them perspective, we will be blind to our own liberation from this self-imposed prison. We cannot access true harmony within without first embracing the notion that all living things and all things in existence are all varied expressions of the same life force. So when you think of the omnipresent, omnipowerful, creating life force of all of existence, every single thing that exists comes from there, and as such is made of that energy. So there is no good and no bad. There is harmony and dissonance. There is creation and destruction. There is progress and regression. There is prosperity and restriction, etc., etc., on and on. So what we're talking about is polarity. Good and bad puts that polarity into a context of duality, where they are opposing forces. But we have opposing forces in every aspect of life, and we don't necessarily consider it good or bad. So it's really about perspective too. The choice to view any other aspect of life as separate to ourselves is the healing we are called here to do. We have to, like, that's the point of focus. That's the goal of this journey, is to get to a place where we see nothing as separate to ourselves. We can identify with all other things as much as we identify with our body and our thoughts and feelings. I am in no way saying that I am there. I am a channel, I'm an oracle, I have messages come through me, but I still have to do the work to integrate them and like actualize them. And I have information that comes through that I can't integrate into my actual day-to-day life for years. And I'm sharing these messages and this information, and there's many other people who will take it and run with it before I will. So, just to say, I am not, claiming to have all the answers by any means, just channeling messages that are coming through. So I was called to share that message. I also wanted to say that was, so I shared that experience of that like flashback sequence in the first video. If you haven't watched that, none of this really makes too much sense. But in that flashback sequence, as viewed from the perspective of one of my Native American ancestors, I have had those experiences, like I said, with my other genetic lines. It has been equally as intense, and there's a theme. So it's really, really interesting, and I've like always been super fascinated with genetic lines, heritage, DNA, and I never knew why, and it's all kind of culminating into one understanding that I'm, coming deeper and deeper into awareness of. But this is the big one. The DNA healing, the ancestral healing, the karma cleansing or clearing, it's all the same thing. This is like what I'm, understanding more and more. And the theme, so I was always fascinated that I had such a diversity in my genetic line, and always wondered if that made me especially different. And so in a certain way it has. Having psychic gifts and having that diversity of DNA in this context is a very interesting mix, because what it has allowed me to see is that theme through such different genetic lines, cultures. So for me, it's the same experience at the core, even though I had been able to connect with it through so many different separate experiences, like of my heritage. So the theme was, I wanted to say it in the most simplified way. So, unforgivable. So, for me, the closest thing that comes down to is like betrayal. But betrayal implies trust. So, in many cases, there wasn't that great of a sense of trust for it to be betrayal. But, it was like violating human rights, crimes against nature. It was just unforgivable. And so that is very heavy karmic energy to be dealing with. And I have it from all these different lines, and it's heavy in all of them. And what it has kind of given me is the awareness of how much of today's suffering is a carry on effect from horrendous things that were done long ago, because it is a part of who we are, whether we look at it and deal with it and grow through it or not. And when you look at the world and you see how much like drug use and alcohol use and all these different crutches that are being used to get through, all like sticking our heads in the sand about the fact that it's a ridiculous way, like life is a miracle and it's like an atrocity to be enslaved to some system. We should all be living in our truth and faith. It's been such a fear-based reality for so many of us. Like, if you don't do this, then your life will fall apart. If you don't do that, your life will fall apart. If you don't go here, do that with those people, dress like this, speak like that, blah, 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 all the live long day. There's nothing but these made up rules about how we must limit our choices. And it all kind of comes back to fear versus faith. If you're ever at a point where you don't know what to do, identify for yourself, what are you most afraid of? And then look within. Tap into your intuition. What's it saying? What does your heart say? That is your compass. That is your way of figuring it out. But I also wanted to mention that though this has been an offering of my experience, a channeled message that has come through me in this way because of my specific lineage. For different people, especially on the twin flame journey, because everyone's got ancestral healing to do, everybody. But on the twin flame journey, that's going to be for the two of you to figure out, because that's not going to be everybody's situation. But I do believe that when they talk about contracts, I do believe that those were the terms, like as if to say, God was like, hey, you guys, so there's these really gnarly karmic snowballs flying through my beloved earth children. I need you to go down there and like stop them. And we're like, yeah, cool. What's that going to be like? We get into it, we negotiate, but we signed up for every single part of it. And whatever you signed up for is whatever you signed up for. This is what I signed up for. And it's funny that I'm getting to that point of connecting this journey of ancestral healing with the twin flame journey, because I've been on the ancestral healing journey in awareness much, much longer. And that this journey has been the breakthrough on this journey is, it's great for perspective too. So I hope these videos have been helpful, and I definitely wish you luck in your own healing. If you would like some assistance in the ancestral healing, I will include my email address. You can email me in regards to getting a private reading, healing sessions. I basically will go through and talk to you about what you're looking for, and when I have the time, prefer to customize what I'm doing with people. Everybody's unique and is, you know, in unique circumstances. So, yeah, if you are looking for help with that, or you have questions, reach out. If this was helpful, go ahead and like the video, share the video, share it with somebody who you feel like there's a message in this for, could appreciate it. Comment if you have any of your own experiences that you would like to share that relate to this. That would be awesome. And yeah, blessings to you. Good luck on your journey.